Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me here on an amazing Monday is our host with the most, the man who brings us college football, NFL. He brings us some of the greatest sportscasters in the land, and he has some of the most amazing guests I've ever seen, honestly, because, in the amount of time that you've been doing this, his name is Logan Landers, by the way. I've just been blown away by how hard you've worked to find great guests and how you've brought on some of the most influential people to talk about each of these teams, insiders who actually live in these areas and are part of the superfan community so that they know, all the inside track. So Logan Landers, thank you for coming on this morning to talk about Clemson versus Notre Dame. How are you doing, bro?
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be on the show, Jeremiah. Of course, me and you do our weekly thing every Monday, talking game previews, player profiles, or anything that's really relevant in the world of college football, NFL football, or we've even delved in some baseball and stuff before in the past. So we're doing everything around here. But yeah, also you're talking to all my guests. Also, thank you for any of my prior guests are watching right now. Thank you all for coming out once again. Shout out to anyone in the Facebook groups who I bother weekly trying to get a guest on. So for the admins out there, I'm sorry for berating you guys a few times each week, but we get some quality guests on the show, and we got a big one coming on later today. That's our next video. Well, I'm not going to say who it is yet because we got to give a little bit of a teaser. But we got a good guest coming on in our next video. But I'm ready to talk about this game here, Jeremiah. This is the ACC championship between these two. I'm ready to talk about this. It's going to be a big game.
This is crazy. Okay, so I will let you take it over and give us all the stats, but this is an interesting day. Like for the COVID season, I think this is going to be one of the highlights of the entire COVID season because you've got a team in Notre Dame that upset Clemson during the regular season, and now it's Clemson, who is one of the best teams in the nation, wanting to come back and get their vengeance. This is a huge rivalry. It was an amazing game oh my gosh. Like anybody, I suggest anybody who's interested in watching this game, go back and at minimum watch the highlights. Just to be honest, watching the entire game is actually worth it with this one, almost like a prequel to watching the sequel to that match. So, Logan, I want to let you take it from there. Tell us, what does Notre Dame need to do and what does Clemson need to do to pull out the win?
Well, you brought up a good point there, Jeremiah. They had a game earlier in the year between Notre Dame and Clemson. At the time, Notre Dame was the number 4 team in the country, and Clemson was number 1. There's a big factor in that game that isn't going to play a part in this upcoming game on this Saturday, and that is Trevor Lawrence. As we all know, in that first game, Trevor Lawrence was not playing due to COVID. He's back and healthy for this one, guys. So that is a big X factor there. The number 1 pick in the NFL draft, it's looking like he's going to be playing, and he's going to be doing his thing all over the field. And I know Notre Dame fans, like I said, that was a great game, Jeremiah. Like you said, the Irish ended up winning that one 47-40 in 2 overtimes. So absolutely amazing game for both teams. And they were able to just go out there and prove why those 2 teams are indeed 2 of the top 4 teams in the country for college football. But like I said, things are a little bit different now than they were a couple months ago when they played this game. Because like you said, both these guys have gotten healthier. They've gotten stronger. They've got the postseason fever now, as I like to call it. This is a big game for both of these guys because while it looks like a win or a loss for both of these teams, they both will remain in the college football playoff unless barring a giant blowout, which I don't see at all.
Right.
This is going to be a highly contested matchup. I know our guy Vincent Turner is going to be talking about the SEC championship game a little bit later on tonight. So we got championships coming up now, baby. I'm ready for it. But this game's going to be great. So the Tigers right now, they're the number 3 team in the country. They have a 91 record, like I said, with that only loss being against Notre Dame. And on their schedule so far, they've been very dominant aside from that one loss to Notre Dame. I mean, in their last game against Virginia Tech, they won 45-10. And their biggest win of the year came against Georgia Tech, 73-7. So that just shows you just how much offensive firepower those guys have. And while I don't see them scoring 73 points against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, I do think this is going to be a heck of a game. Now, as we all know for the Tigers, they're led by Trevor Lawrence, who's thrown for 431 yards on this season so far, even while missing a game or two here with that COVID illness and some other just minor injuries and stuff. But he's been very productive. Like I said, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I think everyone's been saying that since the season even really began. Everyone was putting him with who's going to take Trevor Lawrence. That's the guy. Who is he going to go to? It's looking like the New York Jets, but we'll have to see if they can get a win this season. That's the biggest question in the NFL. But for Trevor, what can you expect? This guy's been an outstanding player since he stepped foot onto Clemson's roster. He's got a 69% completion percentage this season, 20 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So you can't get too much better than that from your star quarterback. But Clemson is much more than just a quarterback. They have a lot of great offensive weapons, like I said earlier. They have Travis Etienne, who's the all-time ACC leading rusher, which is pretty crazy when you have someone who set a conference record be your second-best player. Now, that's a great problem to have if you're Clemson. But Etienne's had a solid year as well. He's rushed for 758 yards, and he's got, he's been great this season as well. But what really helps this Clemson team is their receivers and their defense. Those are the two top, that's what helps them get these wins. Like I said, while it is nice getting those 73 points and all those high-scoring games, the defense has to play a big factor too. Anytime you are a highly ranked team like the Tigers are at 9-1, you got to have good receivers who are going to be able to catch the ball, and then you got to be able to get some good tackles and interceptions as well. So leading the way for receiving yards is Amari Rodgers, who's almost to 1,000. He's got 845, so he's had a very good year on the receiving end of things. He's got 6 touchdowns as well, which leads the Tigers in terms of the receiving corps. So he's broke out as one of the better receivers in the land, honestly. I don't think a lot of people were thinking too much of him. He kind of came out of nowhere in terms of – because we saw last year with the draft, Jeremiah, that all the receivers were stacked. And I know you're going to like him a little bit more. He is a senior, but he's from Knoxville. He's out of Tennessee.
I didn't know that. Awesome.
You got to give a little bit of love to your guy, all of the Tennessee players out there that were born and raised. So the senior for Roger, he's had a really good year. He'll get drafted for sure by a team, and he's going to have a good NFL career. But other than him, also some really good guys that are on that receiving corps. Cornell Powell, 684 yards with 5 touchdowns. He's had a really good year as well, 41 catches to boot, not too shabby if I do say so myself. So they have like a very experienced receiving corps. Both of those guys are seniors. And then also Travis Etienne, he does it all as well. He's good receiving back as well as a running back. He's got 512 yards, as a receiver with 41 catches. He's also got 2 touchdowns. So if your star running back is able to get 40, like I said, those 41 catches, 2 touchdowns, and over 500 yards through the air as well as on the ground, when he's ran for almost 800 yards with 12 touchdowns, you can't get much better than that. That is Trevor's go-to guy when it comes to those big situations, because Travis has proven that he can live up to the big moment. And why wouldn't you? He's broken a conference record, so why wouldn't that be your number 1 guy? So the Clemson offense is, like I said, absolutely phenomenal. But like I said, the defense is where they really need to get a little bit more love. So Balin Spector, 56 tackles on the year, done a very good job at the linebacker position. He's out of Georgia as well, out of Calhoun, the senior. So this Clemson team is very experienced. They have a lot of seniors on their team, and it's paid off for them. They said they've won some national championships before. Like I said, they're in the ACC championship this year, and so they're rocking right along with all these guys who have stuck around. Because let's face it, Jeremiah, we see a lot of young, talented guys. If you're like a sophomore or a junior, you're going to leave to go to the NFL. But all these guys I've listed for Clemson have been primarily seniors, so they've stuck around with the program, and they've really, I think, attached to Dabo Swinney and the culture down there in Clemson. Another really good guy on this Clemson roster is Nolan Turner, who leads the team with 3 interceptions. So he's been, having his hand in the cookie jar, getting those turnovers. Right. And then, leading the way with sacks. They've got a lot of guys who are tied right now for sacks. Right now, they have 4 guys who are tied with 3.5 sacks on the season. That's Xavier Thomas, Balin Spector, who I just mentioned, Levanta Bentley, and then Miles Murphy. So all of those guys have done a very good job at getting to the quarterback and, getting some turnovers as well. So for the Tigers, they just got to do what they've done in the past. Just play a really good game. They have all the talent that's necessary to beat this Notre Dame team. They also have that little bit of fire into them after that loss earlier in the season. So especially with their star quarterback back, who had to watch that game on the sideline, just take in that loss. Man, I know the Tigers are ready to come out guns a-blazing and going to be putting up some points against the Fighting Irish. But let's go over to Notre Dame real quick.
Yeah,
they've had a very good year as well. So they're the number 2 team in the country at the moment. They have a perfect 10-0 record. And now look, Notre Dame is a really weird situation because they're classified as independent, but they've played a primarily all ACC schedule due to the COVID season. So on the year, they haven't really played too many big-name opponents outside of Clemson. They played Clemson. Like I said, they beat them. And the only other ranked team here that they've beat on their schedule is against North Carolina, who they beat a couple weeks ago. But other than that, it's been a bunch of the, I would say, kind of lower-tier ACC teams who aren't ranked. So they've only had 2 ranked games in a 10-game schedule. So that's why a lot of fans are kind of skeptical about if they can pull it off in the college football playoff, because we've seen in the past they've kind of choked under pressure. But look, this year's a little bit different. They have a very good quarterback, and they have a very good team. I mean, I don't care who you're facing, it takes a lot to beat a perfect 10-0. You can't discredit that. They've had a very good job capitalizing on their opportunities and getting wins when they should get wins. And it also helps to get that one upset against Clemson that basically cements them into this college football playoff win-lose. So that helps them in the long haul. But on the year, they have great, they're very talented quarterback in Ian Book, who's thrown for 2,382 yards. He's got a 63% completion percentage, which isn't too bad. But what I like is he's got 15 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. So This is going to be a good quarterback battle here. Ian Book is a senior, of course. This is his last year. And he's really kind of balled out this last year. And he got his name out there in terms of, he's going to get drafted by a good team. So he's been doing his thing as a star quarterback, as you should. But also for the rushing team, Kyron Williams done a very good job, cracked that 1,000-yard plateau. He's also got a total of 12 touchdowns on the year. So if you're Clemson, you got to be on the lookout for both those guys, because that's a 2-headed monster coming at you there, man. You got a really talented quarterback who's thrown for over 2,000 yards, and you got a running back who's rushed for over 1,000. So both of those guys are going to be, running with their nose down or throwing the ball as far as possible to try and get as many yards as they can against that Tigers defense. But other than those 2 guys, they also have a really good receiving core as well. Javon McKinley's looked very good, 3 touchdowns on the year. But leading the way with touchdowns, you got Ben Skowronek. Heck of a last name. If I butchered it up, it's all right. That's how we do it here. It's a live show. It don't matter. Right. But they've been very well as well. As a receiving core, they got 183 catches on the year, over 2,000 yards as a core, and 15 touchdowns. So they've been helping out Ian tremendously this season. On the defensive side, it's going to be they have a very talented roster as well. All right, this is going to be a big one here, so bear with me, guys, watching at home or listening on the podcast. The leader on defense is Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoa. Linebacker, heck of a name. We'll just call him Jeremiah to make it a little bit easier for myself. Yeah. He's a senior out of Hampton, Virginia. He's had a great season. People are looking at him as one of the better linebackers in this upcoming draft. And I can see exactly why. 48 total tackles on the year, 1.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles as well, and an interception. So he's done a little bit of everything this season, and that really has skyrocketed his draft prospect, and that made him jump up in a lot of people's rankings, I think. Yeah. Also, they have a good safety with Kyle Hamilton, who's got 5 passes defended this year with 46 tackles. So that, while I talked about the Clemson defense being solid as well, these Fighting Irish are no joke as well. They have a bunch of guys. I think it took like 5 or 6 guys here that have 1 interception this year, so they're all over the place. They like to share the wealth. Also leading the team in terms of sacks, you have – here's another one, guys. Bear with me. Antetokounmpo Onjunjeli.
Nice.
Yeah. We'll just call him Big A. How about that one? We'll We'll give them some nicknames here.
There's some great names in this entire class.
I know, right? For all my fellow sportscasters out there, this is where it really pays off to have the enunciation out there. When you're just looking on the ESPN website like I am, it's a little bit tough, but it's always great to have that, just how to spell it out and how to say it. So Big A, we'll call him here. He's the senior. He's also another senior here out of and he's been very good as well, defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. And look, so we got two teams here. Both have a lot of loaded seniors, as we've seen, very talented, and they're going to be going at it, Jeremiah. I'm looking forward to it. Usually I like to give predictions for who I think would win.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if I can do it with this one. This is going to be this is where I just want to sit back, enjoy it, not have any thoughts going in my head. It's like, oh man, I said he'd win by 3 touchdowns and he only up by 1. Yeah. I don't want to have that. Not in the championship games. I'm not trying to have this. I'm not going to look back in a few months and be like, oh man, I really kind of messed that up. So for this game, I'm just looking for a good, clean game. No one gets hurt. None of the stars get hurt. A very good back and forth battle like we're all used to watching between these two. I see Kevin Phipps there says Clemson will win. Hey, that could very well happen. But let's not discredit this Fighting Irish team as well. They're very solid, and I mean they got the win against them early this year, so they do have that little bit of momentum. Even though it was against their backup quarterback with Clemson, they still got that momentum going into this game. So overall, just some final thoughts. I'm looking forward to both these quarterbacks going out there and throwing the ball a lot. They're also the running backs are going to be playing a very good factor as well. We're going to be seeing a lot of rushes. We're going to be seeing some play actions. And the defense, this is going to be a very key game for the defense because whichever team can hold up will get the win in this game, I believe.
Yeah, I think you are definitely right. And I also agree that this is the type of game that I wouldn't want to make a prediction for either who's going to win. I just want to sit back, watch those highlights from the other game first to get you pumped up about what the could-be's, and then just watch Trevor Lawrence come through that tunnel, watch the Fighting Irish hunker down and do what they do. They are a team that fights. They're the Fighting Irish. I really can't wait to see what happens with this game. I hope it's a nail biter. I hope that it comes down to the final seconds. I hope that it's everything that we hope it is. And the one thing that I hope doesn't happen is I hope that Clemson doesn't walk in there with Trevor and then they just march all the way.
Right.
And I don't feel like that's going to happen. I think that the Fighting Irish's defense is going to be able to at least give them a run for their money. And then as soon as they get their offense onto the field, it's going to be game on. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Well, if you guys are watching right now and you're looking forward to see it, then please put in the comments what you'd like to see happen. If you have a final score, throw that in the comments too. We'd like to know what you think the final score will be for the Clemson Tigers versus the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And if you are listening to us right now on the Believe Podcast Network here at 100 Yards of Football, we'd like to thank you for joining us. And if you're not, then we'd like to invite you to come over to our podcast. Either go to Spotify or go to Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you listen to podcasts and look up 100 Yards of Football. And you will definitely find us. Just look for that icon, that the 50-yard line there with our football on there, and the recognition of the Believe Podcast Network, who is the one who hosts all of our amazing podcasts. Now, for everybody who does love podcasts or is just getting into podcasts, we put up multiple podcasts every single week, including right now, especially game previews, but also all kinds of player profiles, interviews with some great and legendary players. We bring on sportscasters from all around the country to talk about exactly what should be happening. And we also talk to you, the fans, constantly. So please let us know what it is that you'd like to see. And one more thing I'd just like to remind everybody is that we're also trying to grow our YouTube channel. We have a huge Facebook following, but over on YouTube, we're just like really establishing ourselves over there. Even though we've been posting everything for a while, we're really growing really exponentially. So we'd love for you to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, 100 Yards of Football, where, as you can see, we put up tons of amazing videos, including some incredible Legends interviews that you can't get anywhere else with our team, Vincent Turner, Bobby Butler, who's a 2-time All-American who played 12 years with the Atlanta Falcons, and our coaching expert, Kevin the Bull Jones, and even some basketball updates with Coach Brian Spencer from Carver Bible College. So we just want to encourage you guys to check that out in addition to everything else that we've got going on, because we know we have a lot going on, and we really appreciate it. So for the entire team here at 100 Yards of Football, I'm Jeremiah Long, and this is my dude, the host with the most, Logan Landers, and we'll see you guys a little bit later. Thanks for watching.